Hi everyone and welcome back to Alejandro HD. And today I thought I'd take a look at Erased. Erased was one of these shows that just gripped me immediately. I didn't realise how good it was going to be till I started watching it, and then by like episode 4 I was just totally engrossed. It came about to me when I was looking around on Netflix, checking out a few different the anime section part of it, and swiping through, and then it sometimes comes up with like a trailer or a sort of preview of the film or movies or TV series. Well, that's what happened with Erased, and then I just sort of caught my eye and I started watching it, and it said like 2.3 million mangas sold and worldwide phenomenon, and a lot of things like that. It get me. I was like, all right, okay, I'm gonna have a look at this. So I started watching it, and I originally watched it in dubbed. I didn't realize there would be a no, sorry, subbed. I didn't realize there would actually be a dubbed version, but I did. I have watched it in both, and both were equal. I think they were both really good. I actually preferred the Japanese version. I know that I've said in the past I usually like to watch it with you know I like to watch dubbed, but this time I preferred subbed. I don't know why. I think that this it was very emotional. The characters portrayed like a very emotional sort of. It's a very emotional, very deep meaning show. So I think that in the original Japanese, it was just made it slightly better. Not to say that the English version wasn't bad. It was good, but I just for this time I actually give credit to the sub, and I had to concede it was the better version. Um, what I liked about it, one of the things I liked about it most was the time hopping sequences and the fact that Satoru Satoru, yeah, could foresee things happening in the future, and he would call them yeah, what would he call them? Revival. That was it. He called them revival, so you could see like a bad thing happen before it was going to happen and try and stop it. Kind of like give me Final Destination vibes, or I was actually thinking also gives me vibes like the butterfly effect, things like that. So I thought that was a really unique take on it. The whole sort of kidnapping story, um, the whole like him having to go back in time and alter events, and then going back and forward. I just thought it was really well done. And yeah, just there's nothing but good things to say about this anime. Uh, the visuals were outstanding, and also I actually quite liked the live action remake. A lot of people don't like live action remakes of animes that were originally mangas, but this one I think was done so well. The character who plays Satoru in the live action remake was like spot on. Like I don't know where they got this guy, but he just looks exactly like adult Satoru in the anime. I think young Satoru looks slightly different. But you can't. It's a very hard thing to get somebody who looks just like a guy who's drawn in most cases. Although this time I thought it was really well put together. Um, a few things that did irk me. I think what most people's arguments were was that um, the the girl who gets kidnapped in the end, she doesn't end up with Satoru the hero. She Kaio, I think her name is. Yeah, Kaio. She ends up with his pal, and kind of like when he comes out of the coma after like 15 years or whatever it is, it's like, why did that happen? But so that's one thing that I did. I mean, I understand it, and it's good writing because this isn't your typical anime where it's always going to be the case he's going to end up with the girl. And I did. I did appreciate that. It took me a while to appreciate that because at the time I was like, oh, why did he not end up with her? That's so annoying. He's risked everything for her fighting against the bad guy. But overall, it was such a good twist. Um, and yeah, I just think it's another thing that slightly annoyed me was the main guy's like a manga artist. When you've got a character in an anime that's a manga artist, it feels like a cop out because I mean, what's he doing? It just feels really like it's a bit lazy. I mean, he could have been anything. And he's a pizza delivery guy, but he's also a struggling manga artist. Like, it just feels like the guys who write it, are sort of like, oh, well, I'm a manga artist, so if I make this guy also a manga artist, then I can draw from my own experiences, which is kind of good, but also a bit lazy. I mean, why couldn't he have been anything else? Why couldn't he have aspired to be anything? It doesn't really matter to the plot, but I just think being a manga artist sort of just takes the edge off it slightly. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, right. Always struggling to get published. I mean, I do also understand like why it's a good driver for him, because when he goes back in time and then relives all the moments, he can see exactly why he's chosen to go down that path. And then, of course, at the end, it's sort of suggested that he's going to be much better, or he'll have a different outtake or output because of his experiences with revival. So, yeah, yes and no, yes and no for that one. Um, I think that's really pretty much it. I mean, there's the character development as well. I really liked how when he travelled back in time into his younger body, sounds really odd, his younger self, his adult mind was still in his young self, so he was experiencing things really differently. He had to do the same things as he did as a child, but he was an adult. And then when he saw his mum after what happened pretty much in the first episode, or the second episode, he is overwhelmed by emotions for seeing her, and I think that's sort of a good continuation, because if he just came back as his young self without having those memories, then it would obviously not work. So that's the idea, and how he treats his mother differently, because he knows what happens to her, is really cool, because it sort of gives the characters a lot more development as well. Um, yeah, just overall, just really, really enjoyed this. There was only a few little irks, but I mean, other than that, it was just really, really enjoyable. If you're a fan of like drama and crime sort of stuff and like sci-fi, this sort of takes a little bit of each and then sort of makes them into a nice little cake. It's not overly over um overdone. Sometimes I feel like they could have. I mean, they could have stretched this into like 50 episodes, but the fact that they kept it 12, I thought was good. I mean, I think they could have maybe stretched it just a little bit more. We could have maybe seen a bit more things. We could have maybe got a little bit more character development with the other sort of side characters. But yeah, overall, the main villain was really well written. You just didn't expect what happens, and it's wow, that's. And then as the sort of the episodes go on, you sort of get an idea of like in the beginning, it's like you don't really know what's happening, but then it feels too easy in the first part where he says, "Oh, this guy was the guy who kidnapped him," and then he's on death row or whatever, and then but then actually this happens, and then actually this happens, and then because Satoru prevents Kaio's demise, then like the whole timeline changes. We get like a Back to the Future style thing that happens in the future, like the timeline altered and stuff. And I think that's really cool. We don't get a lot of that these days in programs. And like I was saying, it gives me the sort of butterfly effect, similar to that film with Ashton Kutcher, how he manages to change certain events, but it also affects him. And as we can see in some of the episodes, Satoru also gets affected by the time stream and how he sees time and how it affects him and his changes. So yeah, just a really 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 well written. I think I've not actually read the manga, so that's one thing that's on the list to do for 2023. I've watched the anime and the live action show, so all it's left now is to read the manga and see the parts that I missed or the parts that they didn't include. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Yeah, I give this a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 is because Kyle, and that's personal. It's selfish, but Kyle and Satoru never not getting together in the end. Just it's like I mean, it's good that it didn't happen, but at the same time, I would have liked some unoriginality, if that's what you can call it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.